zero gravity.
As you peak that parabola, the top, you have about 20 or 30 seconds of weightlessness, and all of a sudden, just like Peter Pan, you start flying up, and it was just unbelievable.
That's the enthusiasm that's made her a favorite of students at Concord High School in New Hampshire. This is where the Boston-born social studies teacher lived with her husband and 2 children, and where she put together her lesson plans that emphasize practical experience as well as book learning.
Man tries many things, and we advance as a whole human race because we succeed most of the time. We make advances, whether it's in space or engineering or health or medical things. Sometimes, though, we aren't perfect. And then there's a tragedy that brings us back to our own human frailties and our lack of perfection. And so that's the kind of a day we're faced with now. It's been an amazingly successful series of triumphs through the years. But it also is fraught with the possibility of tragedy, and that's what we came up against today.
Other veterans of the American...
The tragedy stunned NASA. Late this afternoon, the agency held a news conference to tell us officially what we already knew from the pictures, that no one survived. Listen.
I regret that I have to report that based on very preliminary searches of the ocean where the Challenger impacted this morning, these searches have not revealed any evidence that the crew of Challenger survived.
NASA has set up a special investigation team to investigate the cause of today's tragedy.
The crew, 6 astronauts and schoolteacher Christa MacAuliffe, were all hopeful, excited at breakfast this morning. Their mission had been scrubbed twice in the past 2 days for weather and technical problems. Now, however, prospects for a launch seemed good. Today, they would finally blast off on their mission.
The question is, what went wrong? NASA is still trying to find out, but we do know a few things. First, the shuttle program has been plagued with some problems, bulky equipment, faulty computers, and many postponements in planned launch dates. Carol Morton joins our health and science editor Earl Ubell now with more on the possible problems behind today's tragedy.
Well, and thank you. Of course, there are so many theories about what really did
happen today, and what they saw and came to realize very slowly, because you know, when they first saw the flames, they thought that was the natural separation process, and it was a few moments before they were told and before they realized the awful truth that this meant death, and death for someone that they had come to know and love. Christa MacAuliffe had captured the imagination not only of the young people here in this town, but of many of the adults who we've seen. They've come to the school for comfort as well. One gentleman who described it as the same kind of emotional impact as when John Kennedy was assassinated. It was the kind of thing that he would spend, he knew, the rest of his life asking other people, where were you when it happened? And talking about the tremendous impact. She apparently was a very effusive, down-to-earth communicator, a person who was able to reach out not only to these young people, but to adults, and who, because of her participation in the space program, had become more acutely interested in what was going on. And I think that you can accurately describe Concord today as a town engulfed in grief. Everywhere you go, people are talking about it, just absolutely stunned.
All right, Carol Jenkins.
This is the booster that you were looking at, the left one. And those little flames were occurring right in here. And then there was a big flame up here, right in here. And that big flame could have occurred at a point where the fuel lines were feeding the orbiter and the main engines here. And that could have destroyed the entire craft. But as I said, there is no speculation as to what caused the flame in the first place, as to what might have disrupted the solid booster, if that was the cause, or anything of that kind. In fact, NASA is mum. Now, I'm turning to Dr. Jastrow here, who knows a great deal about space flight. He says he's not technically proficient about engines and things like that, but you told me earlier that NASA absolutely was confident that they could never have an accident like this.
They never thought they'd lose the whole bird, so much so that they declined to build a 5th orbiter under some pressure to do that, so certain that they would never lose the shuttle.
Well, is this incompetence or what?
No, I think they're highly competent. You know, his 25 years of performance with only 2 serious accidents. It's an outstanding record. And they must have had good reason for this confidence. It makes one wonder whether, you know, knowing that the Russians get us to sell our submarine secrets to them, whether someone didn't slip in there to that hangar. I don't know what the access is to that bird when it's on the pad.
Are you saying sabotage?
Well, it makes you wonder.
Well, what do you think NASA will look into this, I presume?
I'm sure they're looking into it very hard. And hopefully we'll find out what the problem was. But I must say one thing, Earl, and that is, if we want to stay in space, we've got to keep going on this path. We cannot continue in space without manned flight, and we cannot have that without the shuttle.
Now, the last time the 3 astronauts died aboard the Apollo 1 flight, actually they weren't in flight, they were on the ground, that set back the space program for 1 whole year. Is this what is anticipated now?
You know, you have to be close to the data. That's why I said I had to disqualify myself. But as a general remark, the question is whether it's a fluke, like being hit by a truck when you cross the street, or something fundamental. Hopefully they'll find out. If it's fundamental, there's a long delay in prospect.
Carol?
All right, Dr. Jestro, thank you, and Earl as well. We'll see you later tonight.
NASA had to offer, plus the first civilian in space, Christa MacAuliffe. The 6 astronauts were skilled scientists ready to take on the challenge of space. They would be victims of the first in-flight disaster in U.S. space history. The 6 astronauts aboard Challenger were
break the sound barrier with Dick Scobie, her mission commander.
They could have very easily said, oh, you know, there's a teacher, what are we going to do with her? She's going to get in the way, or we've got to plan things around her. If I needed help during the lessons, if I needed an extra pair of hands. I mean, they've just been so wonderful. I really do feel part of the crew.
For several months now, doctors have been jabbing and probing her, zipping her up in black bags to see if small dark places scare her. She's gone through all sorts of training in shuttle simulators, and she's learned a few cold, hard facts about what to expect.
I didn't realize it was so slippery. The shuttle's small. And if you kind of think of it as being in maybe a 6-man tent with 7 people in it, and it rains for 6 days, that's the environment that you're in.
It's all a very big change from life in Concord, New Hampshire. This was the day she left home for 4.5 months of training. It seemed especially tough to say goodbye to her daughter, Caroline.
Love you. All right. See you later, alligator.
Okay, let's get dinner ready.
Yes.
Okay.
Life without mother in the McAuliffe household. A new adventure for Christa's husband, Steve, an attorney.
Okay. Frozen cook. Open that thing up.
He's doing a super job. I mean, he took over single parenting without missing a beat. The kids are doing well. He's doing well. I mean, he's doing so well that when I came home the last time, I walked in the kitchen to do something, and he kind of looked and he said, "Excuse me," he said, "we don't do that way anymore." I said, "Pardon me."
She's part
sound barrier, and he let me fly for a while.
There were many lessons to be learned: fighting fires and driving the emergency escape vehicle.
There are a lot of students back at Concord High School who would love to have that opportunity.
She has become a hero back in Concord, and her husband has become a space enthusiast.
If I could nudge her aside and climb aboard, I think it'd be a fight.
And there's also a little competition from daughter Caroline.
I think it's neat to go into outer space.
This doesn't seem possible.
It was an emotional experience as she watched the launch of the shuttle last October.
Oh, it's beautiful!
She thinks it will be even more beautiful when she can share the experience with the nation's school children. Bruce Hall, CBS News at the Kennedy Space Center.
Screen that there would be no survivors. It suddenly became apparent to them that they were dealing with death.
From a Soviet official in Washington, condolences and expressions of sympathy for the crew members' families.
We regret loss of lives of the crew, and we express deep sympathy to the relatives and friends of the perished astronauts.
In New York, producers and the studio crew of a Sesame Street program watched in horror as the spacecraft blew apart.
Because it's never happened before, I think possibly many people even involved.
The shocking spectacle was also seen in a city bar.
It's one of the most unbelievable things I've ever seen in my lifetime. I can't remember ever seeing anything like that, especially not with a NASA-related expedition. I'm appalled at it. I feel very bad for the families of those involved.
In a moment of mourning, one New Yorker paused to put the nation's loss into perspective.
It's just a terrible pity, it really is. But again, it shouldn't stop our program because we've got to keep going. It's doing so much for us in other areas.
And from Dr. Robert Jastrow, one of NASA's founding fathers, conviction that manned space flights must forge ahead.
You've got to have men up there, the brain behind the eyeball, to fix these automated factories that we hope to put into space and make sure the product keeps flowing. It just is necessary to carry through this pioneering effort until it becomes routine.
Space flight in 1984, doctorate from MIT. Allison Onizuka, 35 years old, a colonel from the U.S. Air Force, mission specialist. 41-year-old Gregory Jarvis, the payload specialist, was to conduct experiments for use in designing liquid-fueled rockets. And then 37-year-old Christa MacAuliffe, school teacher from Concord, New Hampshire, would have been the first strictly civil.
We have main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
Now controlling. Roger, roll, Challenger. Good roll program confirmed. Challenger now heading down range. Engines beginning throttling down now at 94%. Normal throttles for most of the flight, 104%. We'll throttle down to 65% shortly. Engines at 65%, 3 engines running normally, 3 good fuel cells, 3 good APUs. Velocity 2,257 feet per second. Altitude 4.3 nautical miles, downrange distance 3 nautical miles. Engines throttling up, 3 engines now at 104%.
Challenger, go at throttle up. Challenger, go at throttle up.
One minute, 15 seconds. Velocity 2,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles. Downrange distance 7 nautical miles.
This afternoon, the first official word from NASA since the disaster. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration said simply and directly it did not know what had happened.
Was commanded by
a day for mourning and remembering.